Hey everyone, welcome back for another deep dive. You know how we're always talking about how court cases can get so complicated?
Oh, tell me about it.
Well, today we're tackling something that's both super relevant and kind of tricky to wrap your head around. We're going deep on defamation lawsuits.
Ooh, defamation.
Juicy.
Yeah, but specifically, we're looking at how proving a defamation case actually works differently depending on who you are.
You mean, like, are you a regular person?
Mm.
Or a big-time celebrity?
Exactly. Like, is it easier for a celebrity to win a defamation suit than, say, your next-door neighbor? We've got some legal excerpts to guide us, and let me tell you, the stuff we found is pretty surprising.
I bet. This isn't just for lawyers and celebs, though, right?
No way. It impacts all of us because, let's face it, we all have reputations to protect, and in the age of social media, well, things can get messy fast.
Yeah, that's true. Think about it. Anyone can post anything about anyone these days.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we need to understand how this whole defamation thing works.
Agreed. So where do we start? Well, the first shocker is that not everyone has to meet the same level of proof in a defamation case. And a big part of that, it all comes down to this thing called actual malice.
Ah, yes. Actual malice. It's a term you hear thrown around a lot, but most people don't really get what it means.
Right. So before we even get into who has to prove what, can you give us a simple breakdown of what defamation, legally speaking?
Sure. In the most basic terms, defamation happens when someone makes a false statement about another person, and that statement harms that person's reputation.
Okay, so it's not just like your friend saying your new haircut looks weird.
No, definitely not. It's got to be more serious than that. The false statement has to actually cause real damage, like it could hurt their relationships, their job, their standing in the community, that kind of thing.
So spreading lies that could actually ruin someone's life. Got it.
Exactly. Our legal excerpts actually use a really good example. Imagine a local newspaper, a small town one, and they falsely accuse someone of a crime.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that would be devastating.
Exactly. And that's where things can get really sticky in the eyes of the law. But here's the thing. Proving defamation, well, it's not the same for everyone.
And that's where the whole regular person versus public figure or public official distinction comes in, right?
Yeah, got it.
So let's break it down. Where should we start?
Well, let's start with the average Joe. What the law calls a private individual or a regular person. This is someone who's not famous, hasn't actively sought the public spotlight, just your everyday person. For them, the burden of proof is lower.
Meaning it's easier for them to win a defamation case.
Potentially, yes. Because all they really need to prove is negligence.
Negligence. So using that newspaper example, if they just messed up, didn't do their due diligence, didn't double check their facts, that could be enough to win.
In many cases, yes, because the court basically looks at it like this. Regular people have less power to fight back against false claims.
Yeah, they probably don't have a PR team on speed dial ready to put out statements, right? Or easy access to the media to tell their side of the story.
Right. They're more vulnerable.
Makes sense. Now, when we talk about public figures, I feel like instantly my mind goes to celebrities.
I mean, it's a classic example for a reason. Think of all the tabloid scandals, right? Or even that whole Johnny Depp and Amber Heard trial. Talk about a high-profile defamation case.
Oh, yeah, that was everywhere.
What?
So celebrities, politicians, even those really influential activists you see online,
Yeah.
they all count as public figures.
Exactly. And it gets even more nuanced because there are actually two types of public figures. All-purpose and limited purpose.
Two types. Okay, break that down for me.
All-purpose public figures, those are like your A-list celebrities, people who are just generally well-known. Limited purpose, on the other hand, are folks who are known for a very specific issue. So maybe they're an expert in a particular field who's been in the news a lot lately, or an activist leading a specific movement.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But either way, whether you're all-purpose famous or just famous for a specific thing, it's harder for them to win a defamation suit, right?
You got it. And that brings us back to that term we mentioned earlier, actual malice.
It sounds kind of scary, honestly.
I get that, but it's a super important legal concept. So to win a defamation case, a public figure can't just prove the statement was false. They have to prove that the person who made the statement knew it was false when they said it.
So basically, they have to prove they were deliberately lying.
Exactly. Or they have to prove that the person acted with reckless disregard for the truth, meaning they didn't care if it was true or not, they just said it anyway.
Wow, that's a much higher bar to clear than just showing something was false.
Oh, absolutely.
So why is it so much tougher for public figures? What's the reasoning behind that?
It all boils down to protecting free speech and the role public figures play in our society. We want people to be able to openly debate and criticize public figures, even if those criticisms are harsh or even wrong sometimes.
Because they've kind of signed up for that extra scrutiny.
Exactly. And we also have to consider that public figures usually have way more resources to defend themselves. They can hire powerful lawyers, put out press releases, go on talk shows to share their side of the story, that sort of thing.
Right, they have a whole platform. Most people don't. So it's about balancing that freedom of speech with the need to protect reputations, especially for those who, in a way, have chosen to live their lives in the public eye.
You hit the nail on the head.
Now, what about public officials? Where do they fall in all of this?
Public officials are actually held to that same actual malice standard as public figures.
So, like mayors, judges, even my local school board member, they're all considered public officials.
Yep, all of them. Think about it. A healthy democracy needs citizens to be able to openly criticize their leaders, even if those criticisms turn out to be wrong.
Because if people are too scared to speak up, things could get really bad really fast.
Precisely. And remember that case a while back? The small-town mayor who was falsely accused of embezzling funds?
Oh yeah, that one dragged on forever, didn't it?
It did, and it perfectly highlights why these distinctions matter so much. We can't have a situation where people are afraid to question their elected officials because they're worried about getting slapped with a lawsuit.
That's a really good point. So let me make sure I have this all straight. Our trusty legal excerpts actually have this super helpful table that sums it all up nicely. If you're a regular person, you basically need to prove negligence. But if you're a public figure or a public official, you got to go all the way and prove actual malice, which we now know is way harder.
Exactly, you nailed it. And that's the core difference that everyone needs to understand.
All right, so let's recap one last time for everyone listening. We've covered a lot of ground today. We learned that regular people, they just need to prove negligence in a defamation case. But if you're a public figure, whether you're a celebrity, an athlete, or someone who's become known for a specific issue, or if you're a public official like a politician or a judge, you have to go above and beyond. You have to prove actual malice, which means proving the person who made the statement knew it was false or just didn't care.
And as we talked about, that's a MUCH tougher thing to do.
Absolutely. But here's what I keep thinking about. How does all of this play out in the world of social media?
Yes, it gets really interesting, right? Because we have influencers with millions of followers and everyday people who suddenly gain tons of political clout online. Where do they fit in?
Are they more like public figures now? It's definitely not so black and white anymore, is it?
Not at all. And it raises some seriously thought-provoking questions, like how do we even define what a public official is in the age of social media? And what does all of this mean for defamation lawsuits moving forward?
Whoa. Yeah, that's something I'm going to be thinking about for a while.
It's one of those things that just gets more and more complex the more you dig into it, which is exactly why we wanted to do this deep dive.
Well, I know I learned a lot today. Thanks so much for joining us and sharing your expertise.
Happy to be here.
And for everyone listening, if this topic got you thinking and you want to know more, I highly encourage you to keep exploring. This area of law is only getting more relevant to our lives, and it's something we should all be informed about.
I second that.
All right, that's it for this deep dive. Until next time.